it's even crazier when we turn and look at what 77 games played got for one Jake Sanderson as we get into a little bit of Ottawa Senators talk here.
Yep. Love the Sens. Sicko Nation. Stand up. Love them. And they lock in Sanderson at 8 years, over $8 million. He's played 77 games in the NHL, just signed for 64 sheets. That is incredible. I love that.
Love it for him.
You can call it crazy, dude, but now they've got Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, Shabbat, and Sanderson, and Josh Norris all locked in at less than $8.5 million. Like, they're locking up their core early. A lot of teams are like trending in that direction too, I feel like, where they try to, now all the money like needs to go towards the young players when they are young, because we've seen like the age curve. But like, I mean, Sanderson is a stud. He already defends well. He's incredibly gifted with the skating. He kind of stepped right in once he was healthy and was great for them. So I know it's obviously crazy to throw a $64 million contract at a kid that's played 77 games, but you look at some of the other teams that are doing it too, like New Jersey did the same thing, where like Hughes gets locked in for $8 million. You look at Buffalo; they do the same thing. There's a little bit more
sample size there, though, man.
Well, I mean, so they do the same thing. So they throw 7 years, like something around $5 million at Samuelson too in Buffalo. So like they're doing the same thing. Like it's. I feel like a lot of teams are trending in that direction where they're trying to lock up those kids.
It's absolutely a trend, but here's my question. Like, is this getting to a point where it's now the expectation that if you're like a high pedigree prospect that you're going to get paid right away? And when that happens, how many busts are we going to see? How many shitty contracts are we going to see that people have to try and work their way out of?
Yeah. And that's the risk, obviously, right? We're like, yeah, you're putting a whole lot of eggs in that basket, but like at the same time, would you rather risk that on throwing $8 million a year, like a 28-year-old for 6, 7, 8 years, and then you're paying, you're like banking, you know what I mean? So I totally get the thinking. Usually you'd probably want to see more of a sample size in like Sanderson's case, but like, I mean, there were games last year where he was their best player. Like there were several games that I watched in the Senators where he was like taking over from the back end. And I mean, now you've got those guys locked in and like really good cap hits for, well, if they all hit their potential. I mean, we've already seen with Tkachuk, you see it with Stützle. Shabbat's an interesting one. I don't really know what to think of him as a defenseman. There are games where he's unfucking believable, and obviously he can play like 30 minutes a night, that's pretty nice. Then there's just some games like, oh my God, he doesn't know how to play defense, but at the same time, he's obviously a big part of that team too. So, I mean, I completely understand the thinking. I am of the mind that you do invest in your young players in their prime years. So now you're looking at the cap going up and all of their best players being locked in at less than $9 million a year. You'll sign up for that, I think, 10 times out of 10. And I do think Sanderson hits, man. I think Sanderson hits. Like
this is less a shot at Sanderson than it is just like, I am very worried about the way this is trending for the NHL at large. Like,
I also love seeing young players.
Did Kirill Kaprizov break contracts? Is this his fault?
Everything is Kirill's fault in the Minnesota Wilds and Bill Guerin, president of the country.
I mean, I can't argue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know though. Like, I think forever, young players in the NHL had zero, like, power, zero, like, they had no control over their own, like, fucking careers. And now you're like, over the years, they started getting more and more like control and rights or whatever. And now you're seeing them actually like teams investing in them. So I think it's a good thing, honestly. If teams are going to start investing in those younger players, then I think that's good for the league because you're investing realistically in the best players in their prime years. So, I mean, is it risky? Yep. But at the same time, I am very confident that Sanderson will hit that potential and beyond because he's that good. Like, again, like so many games last year, I was like, Jesus, that kid's a fucking stud. And he's played less than a full season in the NHL. He's already more than capable of playing.
Now, let's be real, though, Z. If we don't have, like, a nearly impending bump in the salary cap. Like we're expecting it to go up as much as $4 million this year. They expect it to continue to go up years to come. If that's not expected by GMs, do you think that the same type of deal is made so aggressively?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, because God, how long? Every year it's like, oh, salary caps. This is the year. Big jumps coming. They're like, 1 million. Actually, it is. That's how much we're going up here. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, but
I think we lost him.
I'm going to die. It's still not back.
There he is.
This is miserable.
All right, so Z, can you hear me?
It's gonna go out. Yes.
This is great. So
it went back. Let's go.
The core for the Ottawa Senators, you just talked about it. You ran down the players that are a part of it. And again, great contracts if they all pan out. Like, do you think that they stack up with the cores that are being built for some of the other teams? Like, we're not talking Pittsburgh Penguins, who are very much an aging core, but you look at, what the Toronto Maple Leafs had built. You look at the New Jersey Devils. Like, do you think that Ottawa is leading the pack? Are they trailing? It's somewhere in the middle?
No, I think they're somewhere in the middle, but trending upwards. Like, because, I mean, again, a lot of those players are 21, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19. Like, but they're trending in the right direction. Plus, with that DeBrincat trade that they made, they also acquired another first-round pick. So now they've got 2 first-round picks going into next summer, too. So, I think, do they have a chance to make the playoffs this year? Sure, they have a chance. I'd say them and Buffalo are now both, like, really aggressively planning on challenging to make the playoffs, especially when teams like Boston are starting to trend down maybe. But I look at those young players in that core, and like Stützle went off this season. He's unbelievable. Brady Tkachuk is just an animal. Like, and they've got plenty of other prospects.
Norris and Shabbat are the ones that I'm kind of iffy on. Like, they're not bad players. It's just, will they reach the potential of their contract? I'm not sure yet.
Oh, I just think Norris just needs to stay healthy.
That would help quite a bit.
Like, because, I mean, you're looking at when he even the year that he was hurt 2 years ago, he played 66 games, still put up 35 fucking goals. Like, so if he could get healthy and stay healthy, obviously that's a tall order. When you're hurt this often, because I think he only played 8 games this year. I think he can be a 30-goal guy every day, every season, if he just stays healthy. But again, that's the big question mark, right? And that's another risk with throwing that much money at players. So we'll see what happens. But I believe in a lot of Ottawa's core.
Okay, gun to your head this year, Buffalo or Ottawa?
I feel like I still lean Buffalo because I love
I'm heavy Buffalo. Heavy.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, like, again, the vibes in that city with that team, like the come up that they've had, and again, another team that's been locking in those players as much as possible. Like, and Devin Levi, I think I just threw some. We'll talk about gambling in a second here, but I sprinkled a couple bucks on him for the Calder this year too. Devin Levi literally came in, was a fucking stud as a goalie immediately.
Honestly, though, if they make the playoffs, how do you not give it to him?
Right. He's oh man. And he has just the funniest little routine in between whistles, but like, and there's timeouts, so he just like gets on one knee and stares at the crowd behind the net. It's so funny. It's my favorite shit in the world. He does it for Star Wars too, which is even funnier.